My wife's like, don't touch your. Yeah. Well, it doesn't make it because we're both at. We both had the virus. We just got over it. We've had it. I had a very mild case. My wife had 102 temperature for like 6 days. She was under the covers, shivering for like 6 days. Yeah, nasty stuff.
Hannah, okay, hold on. The daughters, we're not live yet. Oh, we are live. You already clicked the button for live.
Oh, yeah, I probably did.
That's okay, just leave it. I'll just cut all this out.
Yeah, just cut all it out.
Or we can leave it in. Whatever you want.
Could.
Everybody knows us.
It's fine.
Okay, so why don't we just get started?
Okay, let's go. There you
go. Sorry you had that. Okay, so you just heard that Chris is suffering through coronavirus, and he looks amazing. This is my name is Tracy Swedlow. This is Televisionation. I am the host of this new show, which is about the state of the TV nation, which is an international group of people, right? And how we hold it all together and our common interests. So Chris Pizzurro, who, why is your title blanking on me, Chris? Tell me your title.
VP of Global Sales. Speaking of a world and related, So I used to be just domestic U.S. and now it's global sales for a lot of what you just mentioned.
And I know you were promoted, I think, this last year, so all is good.
Knock on wood.
So if you don't already know Chris participates in all of our conferences. Thank you so much. Canoe also sponsors. We didn't call you specifically because you're a sponsor, although we're happy to have them participate. We're interested in what seems like incredible growth going on over there. And we wanted to check in because TV is becoming more and more important every day through all of this. And we wanted to hear what you're seeing because you're able to watch, how advertising is, drifting through the networks. So just quickly, I'm also wanted to point out, by the way, that you guys put this nice note on your site, which I wanted to bring up. Where is it? That you are, you had this message that I wanted to point that you're going to be delivering VOD advertising for free for coronavirus PSAs.
Yes.
Provide consistent messaging and updates in this constantly changing environment. So I just wanted to applaud you for that.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of those things. I saw a press release from some of our clients from the NBCU and the Disney and the Viacom folks, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to be, putting out these PSAs and coronavirus and how to keep safe and all that." And I was like, be nice to do our small part. And here's the best part about working at a mid-sized company like that. I emailed my CEO, Tracy. I said, "Joel, I think we should be involved in this somehow. Maybe we could waive our fees, just something to do our small part." And he's without missing a beat goes, "Yep, do it." That was it. Like it's nice to be able to do that and have that flexibility and the willingness. And that's it. So yeah, I mean, it's nothing more than, waiving our fees to have it out there, but it gives people, try to make it frictionless and get the message out there without people wondering, can I afford to do it or whatever it is. Like, yeah, just do it. It's the right thing to do.
Well, those who can adapt, right, and be nimble are going to succeed and continue through this crisis till we get on the other side. So I applaud that. Thanks so much to Joel and to yourself. So tell me, well, I know what you guys do, but why don't you give us a short, elevator pitch about what Canoe does for anybody who's watching this for the first time, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can even put it in context of those PSAs. So if you're our clients, which are all the major broadcasting cable companies, here in the U.S. Right now. We'll talk about global in a bit. But so if you're NBC and you have an ad campaign that you're running and you want it to run across your linear networks, across VOD, you might throw something on your own website or whatever it may be, or on a Roku channel. So when those ad campaigns run on cable VOD across Comcast, Cox, Charter, and Frontier, that's going through our ecosystem. So we have 40 million homes, so that when someone like NBC says, hey, we want to run this PSA, they stick it into their campaign manager. And when that plays out across cable VOD in those 40 million homes, that's going through our ecosystem. So what we do in that is to make sure the ad plays out, make sure the reporting happens, basically everything.
And these are all your customers, right? These are your programmers you're working with on the street.
Yeah. These are all of them, and like we mentioned, a lot of them are actually doing some of these public service announcements right now, which is nice. So yeah, we're fortunate to have that kind of quality customers, and so that's what we do. We make sure all of their ad campaigns run across cable VOD day in and day out, and to the point where we've made a $1.4 billion marketplace here in the U.S. So it's nice to sort of prove that there's life beyond linear TV, and as consumers watch what they want to watch, where they want to watch it, we're a part of that whole movement.
Well, I wanted to just show that slide that initially prompted my email to you. The one where you talk about the growth. Wanted to show that. Where is it? I'll bring it up. This one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so talk to me a little bit about why, about this growth, and what do you think you're going to project for 2020?
Sure. So the growth since 2014, and even before that, since about 2012, that growth is always, it's different reasons at different points in time, Tracy. So in the early days there, you see the trajectory start because we're adding more distribution. In the early days, we started with just Comcast. Then it was Comcast and Time Warner Cable. And in Comcast, Time Warner Cable, Bright House. And then you add on Cox. And so, part of that, you're adding more footprint. You're adding more homes that you're reaching. So that's one reason for the growth. Then you started to build on more advertising campaigns. And as people found that VOD worked for their ad campaigns, then you would, they had the trust factor, and they would, advertisers put in more money and more campaigns. So there's growth there. And then we would also add more networks. Like when we started, it was pretty much NBC and a handful others, and now that slide that you just saw, we have over 23 programming groups and 120 networks. So it's all different reasons over the years for that sort of growth. So
tell me a little bit about how VOD is faring, or monetization of VOD through your relationships with your programmers, your customers, in this environment where people are definitely home, they're watching more. I want to hear a little bit more about what you're seeing, some of the statistics, or people are floating on to other platforms. Maybe you can't see that. Are you seeing churn? Give me some insight.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's fascinating. It's a strange situation. I think it's all across. It's not just for VOD, but for all of television. And I assume for probably the CTV and the OTT guys and all of that, is that, yes, there's a whole bunch of people who are home, who are hunkered down, and who are watching more television, right? Be it TV, linear, VOD, whatever it may be. But at the same time, you do have advertisers that are confused or challenged, don't necessarily have creative, don't want to put the wrong creative out there. So yeah, there's a mad scramble right now, Tracy. I spoke to
Clark yesterday about that. We're going to put that show out later, but yeah, they're trying to retool their messaging and what to put out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and people are figuring it out. I was very surprised last weekend, like everyone else, like I mentioned, hunkered down here with a fever. But I was surprised. There was some like really good creative. You could tell these folks just banged it out. Their ad agencies stepped up and they They rose to the occasion, and so
what are they putting out? What are you?
For instance, I think there was a Burger King ad where you can just tell they were like, yeah, we'll deliver to your house. So that sort of adjustment, and some, like you mentioned, some folks will be able to do it, some folks won't. So I think the general consensus out there is it might be a little rough. Early second quarter here as people just sort of figure out, what they are, where's their messaging, how do they fit into this? And then I think, people are anticipating that the levels will come back. So we are in a weird place right now. For us specifically, I know our data, and that is we are on average, we're 20% up in terms of VOD views on the platform pre-virus to in the last week and a half, 2 weeks essentially, up 20%. The kids, it's a huge amount, right?
Yeah.
Kids category, as you might expect, is contributing to that. Movies, hour-long dramas are contributing to that. All right, so as you would kind of think. Time of day, it's sort of interesting as it follows the same trajectory as pre-virus, meaning, the morning's a little light and starts to pick up in the afternoon, and then certainly prime time viewing.
They're sleeping in.
Yeah. Yeah. But the real spike really does start to happen right around noon, and that viewing has been more right up and through prime time. It kind of makes sense. I feel like there might be some folks who are working in the morning, and then maybe we're kicking out by noon, 2:00, and watching a movie.
Well, but then there are a lot of people who are still working or have to go out into the world and work. Yep. We forget that a lot of us are able to work from home, but so many people, I just wanted to put that out there, are delivering the groceries. And Absolutely. I know there's a bus driver, and I know that the garbage is being picked up. So I just wanted to do a quick shout out to those people.
Yes, absolutely.
But to everybody else who can continue to work from home, that's what we want to find out what's going on. I also wanted to discuss or find out from you, because there isn't any live sports, right? So are you seeing some interesting trends about where people are going? Are you able to see that? Or how are the normal sports advertisers doing?
I'm in VOD, right? We've always been light in terms of live news and sports. I mean, because you would let them, you still,
That's right.
Yeah.
You're not live, right?
Yeah. I mean, right. But even viewing, what's happening is that there's no live sports. You would think, perhaps people want to go watch an old game on VOD.
Sports. Yeah. Are you seeing the growth there?
And really, we have not looked at that yet. We did look across the board, and as I mentioned, it really was kids, dramas, and movies. But it's a little hard for us because while we have a lot of the Walt Disney Company up on our platform, we don't have ESPN or any of the ESPN networks. So there's so I don't have that many sports networks up within the platform. So it's kind of hard for us to tell on that one. But I do know from friends who are on the sports side, and that they are, like I mentioned before, all folks are sort of scrambling and figure out what you do. Something that I know, I'm also, I'm a board member on the Esports Ad Bureau.
That's
right. That I do know is, we've been in the middle of helping bridge bringing those viewers over to esports, and actually have been in the middle of cutting some deals with some of those broadcasters. And so just this past weekend, the Fox guys, instead of having the live NASCAR race, actually had an esports race. So there's a lot of that going on. So that's been interesting being in the middle of that.
I keep mentioning it in all these conversations that drone racing. A friend of mine is majorly big into drone racing. I could see that happening. Yeah. It's interesting that that people are pursuing esports. I'm kind of curious though. Are all of the advertisers who normally would work in sports or deliver to programming in sports or other types of programming, are they asking you to retool their audiences? Or maybe you're not involved with managing the audiences, but how is Addressable helping the marketers reach new audiences?
Yeah. So I have two questions in there, I think, Tracy. First one was sort of the traditional sports guys. They have been migrating to esports over the past year and a half, 2 years anyway. The Gillettes are there, Anheuser-Busch, those sort of traditional sports guys. So and the Toyotas, and so they were migrating there anyway. So I think you'll see that they will just continue now to be in the esports space. They kind of put those bets down early, and now they could be paying off for them. Actually, it works out pretty well.
Yeah, transition.
Yeah. Addressability is a whole other aspect. And that you brought it up. We've actually, Canoe, we've been in the middle of the On Addressability initiative that Comcast started a year ago. And that is where we're going to have it. So back to, any of my customers from Disney or NBCU or anyone, they go in and say, hey, okay, I used to book you, Mr. Advertiser, if you wanted to watch, This Is Us, or if you wanted to watch Blackish or something, and okay, I'm going to target you, put you on those programs, and do you on a men 18 to 49 or just some broad demo or something. Now with addressability, we actually really are, and it's been a promise, and you've reported on it for a long, long time. But we are starting pilots here in 2020 of. You can now say, hey, I want to reach left-handed bike riders, and I want to be able to reach them across linear and VOD, across Comcast, Cox Charter, and Frontier, our footprint, and have those play out and come back. So it is finally real, and it's pretty exciting. When
do you think we'll see exponential growth for that?
I think we are on the cusp of it. We really are running. There's two parts to the pilots, and you'll see some announcements pretty soon with some of our programmers very soon.
This would be a good time to launch all of that, don't you think so?
It would. Not allowed to say quite yet, but we're almost there.
A month, 2 months, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks. And that's just for the pilots. And they're technical pilots. We have to make sure that someone could put something into freewheel, and it could, go down, and someone could put something into their Google Ad Manager and that kind of stuff. So very much about wiring it all up, making it all work. But what's really important for me on the business side is that we've worked economics in a model that we believe will actually make this work at scale, Tracy. So we've been working with our programmers. We went to them early on we know that's been sort of the holdup, was just kind of the economics around it. So we think we have something that could work for the agency, for the programmer, for my MSO, cable operators, and something that will work at scale. So that was really a key part of it, is getting the business terms together. And we think we've got a model that will work at scale. So that's the real driver.
Are you guys going to be able to? Is Canoe ready to do that as soon as everybody else is ready at the same time? Is it like
technically you're saying, or
yeah, technically?
Technically, there's we're starting slow. Like I said, in the pilot, trying to get it so end to end it all works. But really, it's just going to be so there's one spot per half hour or something, right? It's not going to be every spot. So we're trying to make it so that it can all work from soup to nuts on a limited basis, and then we'll work up towards scale. So yeah, we'll have the technology working shortly, but then it will take another year for it to scale up, on all inventory for sure.
Okay. Well, I appreciate those kinds of timelines. That's what we wanted to get a sense of what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So back to your main business. I mean, tell me a little bit about what your partners are saying about the fact that there's all this growth and on how they're trying to change what they do. I mean, are you hearing anything from your four partners, right? Charter.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, those are our owners and our board members. Yeah. It's no secret their businesses are always changing and always challenged and all that sort of thing. So I think they appreciate the work that we're doing on the VOD side. And, we mentioned we're, to the point where what we've done for VOD is the operators, board's happy and our programmers are happy that they're monetizing VOD at those rates that you showed earlier. And I really think that speaks to why they asked Canoe to be in the middle of on-addressability and to wire it all up and technically make it all work and all of that, is because we've proven that we can do these kinds of businesses at scale. So certainly, challenging time in general, and then put the current situation in, and even more challenging. But
I don't. You probably don't have any statistics for this, but I'm asking kind of an open question, which is, I wonder if this is going to, the situation we're in will put a little bit of a retardation on cord cutting, or if they're seeing an increase, a little bit more of an increase than they would normally get for subscriptions. I don't know if you have any insight into that. What do you think?
I don't. I had an interesting conversation with someone this morning on that subject, and I don't have any exact data. I mean, I do have the data that our business is up 20%. So there's people who are obviously went to their cable remote and found VOD, in their cable system and are watching shows. So, I mean, that's a fact. I do think there could be some folks, unfortunately, who are really going to feel the pain, like you mentioned. I mean, a lot of the restaurants and these folks who probably just go, hey, you know what? I was thinking about cutting the cord and now I just have to do it. Right. I just can't afford it or whatever it may be. So I think there's going to be those folks. But I also, in turn, think that there's another set of people who are doing what my data shows on the VOD side, and that is to say, hey, you know what? I have enough to deal with. I really can't worry about this connection or that connection. I just want to sit down. I want to throw on This Is Us, and I just want to watch TV. And so I don't know which way it falls, and obviously, different people are going to be in different situations, but I think it's going to be a little bit of both. There's people who are going to be financially challenged who need to cut, and there's going to be other folks who will find more value in their cable subscription and stay and milk it for all it's worth.
I know that you're involved with maybe other groups and industry organizations, behind the scenes. Can you give me an inkling or sort of insight into what people are discussing? I mean, we're involved in our own group discussions, but you're involved in some private groups. Any kind of interesting thoughts in those side conversations?
Just in terms of the industry you're getting at, Tracy, or trends, or
I know you didn't know I was going to ask you that question, but
I'm not being. I just want to fully understand the question. That's all. It's fine.
You're in all those little secret groups because you're just a well-respected member of the community, Chris.
Just a bunch of folks trying to figure it out, and trying to lead where we can and help. With that said, I look. There's been people who truly do believe that you're going to be able to put a campaign, an advertising campaign in, and it's going to play out across the world, and a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to wire all this up, and then something like the last month or 2 months come into play, and just blows up a whole bunch of things you thought were going to happen in the next year or two, and throws a big fat question mark into a whole bunch of stuff. Like I said, just like we're discussing now, and I had a couple conversations this morning, there's a bunch of folks who are just like, we just got to sort of figure it out day by day. But I do see people getting creative. I had a whole bunch of campaigns that canceled yesterday of things that I saw come through the system, and people had cancellations. But then that was in the morning. Then by the afternoon, you had other folks who looked at it opportunistically and bought up that inventory. So, I think there's just, you're just going to see both ends of the spectrum. Those who just have paralysis right now, and those are actually going to get creative and take hold of the situation. So sure, a bunch of whole conversations with a whole bunch of folks. But boy, if anyone tells you they really know what's going on in the next 6 to 8 months, they're lying.
Are you able to see if people are watching these commercials that are more contextually relevant for our times? Can you see those kinds of statistics? Are they skipping commercials, or clicking to another channel, or are you seeing people that are paying more attention to those commercials because they might have some relevancy?
Great question. Yes, we could. There's the information in the system. We have not done that, and I may actually now call up my analysis folks and say, take a look at that, because we do traffic every single ad comes through the system, and we know on a second by second if someone stays with that ad or if they bail on it, right? So we could actually, as long as I know the what that creative is, right? I have to know that it was. So, for instance, back to sort of those public service announcements that we're running, we actually did require of all of our networks, who are taking advantage of that offer, to actually code them in the name PSA, so that we do actually know that that's what they are, and again, so we can waive those fees on the financial side. But there's an example of, sure, if I know that ad is a PSA, I can actually see if someone basically tuned away from it or bailed out, or if they watched through it. We haven't done that, but sure, the system's capable of doing that.
I think that'd
sort
be
of analysis.
Interesting. I think it'd be very interesting. I'd love to hear what you find out, if you're willing to say. I have a question for you, which we should have addressed earlier, which is, in the state that we're in, and you're head of global sales, what is the state of global sales for Canoe? How are you getting Canoe's offerings out?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, a year ago, it was things were very much moving towards global. Certainly, when countries are shut down, and your people are indoors, it's a little hard to get things done. But with that said, I've actually been pleasantly surprised. We've been active in trying to bring dynamic ad insertion to VOD to the Latin America market. Mm-hmm. So we actually have been working with LAMAC, which is the trade organization for the Latin America programmers down there, much like the VAB and Sean Cunningham is here in the USA. Henry and LAMAC are down there. So we've actually worked out an arrangement with them. My same clients that are down there, like A&E and Sony, we're going to be launching a pilot with them and LAMAC, and with some cable operators down there. So that's actually there's going to be a pilot in Chile, and hopefully Puerto Rico is the first two places that we're looking to launch. And then up in Canada, same thing. We've been working with the Rogers and Shaw and Bell folks up there. That some of them already have dynamic ad insertion, some of them don't. So we're really working with Think TV, again, as a trade organization up there, and trying to bring consistent scale. Yeah, they're good people. And we're trying to bring consistent scale up there. So that's been really encouraging too. Europe's just hard because it's fragmented, and obviously harder in the last couple months. So really the most encouraging developments are in Latin America and Canada right now.
All right, sounds good. I mean, when people are, I think, over the shock, I think everyone's going to be reaching out to each other. One of my goals here is to have people from around the world come on this show and tell me what's going on there. So we're going to have some interesting content and conversation going forward on that. So I think we'll invite you into those global conversations. So you can.
This is wonderful. I think there's going to be a lot more of this type dialogue going on. So I applaud you, Tracy, and it's always been wonderful to attend your events. But certainly Talk about being flexible. This is
you moderate. Oh, sorry, I keep interrupting you. You moderate so many times, Chris. I really deeply appreciate that.
Yeah.
And your sessions are extremely well attended. So,
yeah. Well, now we need to. It obviously will be, a tough. Not doing some events in these next few months, but this, this kind of forum, it will be interesting to see if this now these forums, this sticks around. Looks like some inflection points. It's going to be interesting to watch over the next few months. Do people flock back to the NABs and the cans and the events, or are people kind of like, hey, you know what, those web things actually work pretty well? It would be interesting to watch how that all sort of plays out over the next 6 to 8 months and year.
Well, we're exploring it too. We'll see. By the way, I wanted to, we have to close, but I wanted to point everyone's attention to the Leadership Award behind your head.
Let me see if I can point. Oh, I can point the right way. Look at that. There you go.
Not planted there. See, I have one too.
There you go. And I did not put it there because I was on your program, Tracy.
I know. I'm so
front and center on my shelf in my office, my dear.
I'm so complimented. It's our leadership awards. That was for 2016, and you're an all-star. So not only are you a leader, but you are a veteran of this industry.
I am honored, Tracy, and as are you. You've been doing this a long time, you and Richard.
And Richard, thanks for mentioning Richard.
Absolutely.
Richard Washburn, who's my husband and partner and co-owner, and works behind the scenes, and nobody knows often that he's there, but he is there.
Well, now they do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Tracy.
Say hi to everybody at Canoe, and really appreciate your support in general, but involvement in the industry specifically.
Right.
And that's it. This is Tracy Swedlow of Televisionation, and we'll be on pretty soon next time. Take care.
Bye.